Gypsy, why do you do this? Jip, the amount of people coming out and saying that this DNA test is fake. Oof. We need to do something about that. We can't have that. Don't. No, take it down. We want that down. Take it down.
Moving forward, let's talk about how we even got here. And that brings us to Nina's investigation. Nina, a content creator who doesn't just look at things from the surface. She's known for digging deep. And in her recent video, she decided to look closely at Gypsy's paternity test. What she found? Well, let's just say it didn't exactly put Gypsy in the best light. Here's how it started. Gypsy posted a paternity test that she claimed was from the DNA Diagnostics Center. DDC is a reputable organization, so on the surface, it seemed like Gypsy was providing real proof. But Nina wasn't convinced. She wanted to see if all the details really checked out. And what she found was surprising. Nina looked up DDC locations across the United States to see where Gypsy might have taken this test. She focused specifically on Louisiana, where Gypsy claimed the test was done. But here's the thing, there aren't any DDC locations in Louisiana. Not a single one.
Y'all, allegedly, Gypsy Rose scammed us on the paternity test. Y'all, I went down this deep hole to figure out what was going on. So this is DDC Diagnostic Center. So I said, where in Louisiana is a location? These are all the locations that they have in the United States. None of them say Louisiana. Then I started searching and it says home paternity test. I was saying to myself, am I sure it's a home paternity test? Let me look to see if I could find a location. Well, I found this. I marked it out because I don't want to dox the people. But it's in Ohio, right? Now her test also says Ohio. Here you go.
Right away, that raises a huge red flag. If DDC doesn't have any offices in Louisiana, then where did Gypsy take this test? Or did she even take it at all? But it gets stranger. Nina noticed that the address associated with the paternity test results was actually in Ohio. And Louisiana to Ohio, that's not exactly a quick trip. It doesn't make much sense for a test supposedly taken in Louisiana to be processed all the way in Ohio, especially when there are closer locations DDC could use. The location discrepancy isn't hard to ignore, and it makes you wonder if there is something Gypsy isn't telling us. Nina didn't stop there. She went further and compared the paternity test that Gypsy posted to a standard DDC test sample. And guess what? They didn't match. The test Gypsy posted didn't look like a typical DDC result. The formatting was different, certain sections that should have been there were missing, and overall, it just didn't have the professional look you would expect from an official DDC document. And Nina didn't just go off her own observations. She called the DDC directly. According to her, they confirmed that their test results follow a specific format. The same one shown in the sample, not the one Gypsy posted.
She said she was taking a paternity test and she was taking an at-home paternity test. How do we even know what's really what? But I also looked up what is a sample of this test. This would be a sample of the test from there. I want you to look at this one more time and we're going to go back and look at her. Here we go. Now, what I do find is odd about this is she puts this paternity test after she spirals on live yesterday. Not only does she spiral, she does that video of her trying to bait Ryan. That is so strange to me, right? Like, that's extra strange. Because I think a lot of people aren't even realizing that Ruby and her in that video were very similar. Like, so similar, it was scary. And it made me actually nervous for Ryan. Now, we also know Gypsy Rose is not really trustworthy, so can we really trust this test?
And that's important. When an official organization like DDC says, this is how our tests look, and Gypsy's test doesn't match, it raises serious questions about the authenticity of her test. Let's pause for a moment and consider the weight of these findings. We're not talking about a small mistake here. If Nina's investigation is accurate, then this isn't just an oversight. It's a calculated attempt to create a specific impression. And if that's the case, then it's a massive breach of trust. Why go to such lengths to post a test that doesn't match the DDC's format? Why claim it was done in Louisiana if the address is linked to Ohio? This isn't just about whether Gypsy took a paternity test. It's about whether she's being honest about any of it. Each detail that Nina uncovers adds to a growing sense of doubt, and it makes you wonder if Gypsy counted on people not looking too closely. But Nina did look closely.
And I also think it's ironic that she allegedly went to lunch with Bree yesterday. After you go to lunch with Bree, you pop up with this result. Now you know Bree is good with the handy dandy rent-a-center laptop that she has, right? So do we think that maybe they could have did something? Because why do those paternity tests not look the same at all? That's the sample. Why does it not look like the sample? And I also called and they said that the sample is the standard test, the way it would look. So is Gyp lying?
And now the story doesn't hold up. What's even more unsettling is that Gypsy posted this test right after an emotional live stream where she seemed to be spiraling. And shortly after that, she released a video that seemed aimed at someone named Ryan. It feels almost as if she released the test results to steer attention in a certain direction or to distract from the live stream. All of this, the test, the timing, the inconsistencies, adds up to a story that's becoming harder to believe. And that leads us to an even more complex question. Was Gypsy's breakdown a genuine moment of vulnerability, or was it part of a larger strategy to create sympathy? Because if it was, then we are not just talking about a questionable paternity test. We are talking about calculated, multi-layered manipulation that goes far beyond what anyone expected. Now, if the inconsistencies in the paternity tests weren't enough, the timing of Gypsy's posts has raised even more questions. It's not just about what she posted, but when she posted it. And when you start piecing together the timeline of events, it paints a picture that makes you wonder if there is more at play here than meets the eye. Here's what we know. Gypsy posted the paternity test results shortly after an emotional and somewhat chaotic live stream. During that live, Gypsy appeared to be going through a personal spiral. She seemed visibly distressed. Her emotions were running high, and her behavior left many of her followers worried, confused, and maybe even a little uncomfortable. Those watching the live could tell something wasn't quite right. It was one of those moments where if you were tuning in, you felt the tension in the air.
It's completely normal for people to go back and forth with each other in little tit-for-tat ways. Okay, I'm not going to say we're on bad terms, but we're not on good terms. We're just on terms. So, when I seen the video, I was not jealous. I am happy for him. If he wants to go and dance with a million girls, if he wants to go to a club, cool, I'm happy. I don't care. Like, I want him to find someone and I want him to be happy.
And then, right after this turbulent moment, she posted a video and these paternity test results, almost as if to shift the focus onto something else. In this new video, she seemed like she was trying to get the attention of someone named Ryan. We don't know who Ryan is in Gypsy's life, whether he's a friend, an ex, or something more. But it felt like she was directing a lot of emotion toward him, almost like she was hoping for a response or trying to provoke some kind of reaction. Why release the paternity test right at this moment? It's not as if these results just appeared overnight. If Gypsy had these results, she could have shared them at any time, but she chose to post them right after a very public, very vulnerable display of emotion on her live stream. And for those who watched it all unfold, it seemed like a carefully timed move, maybe an even attempt to regain control over a situation that had started to slip away from her. Think about it. If you're in a moment of vulnerability, if you feel the eyes of the world judging you and wondering about your next move, one way to change the conversation is to introduce something that pulls focus elsewhere. And the paternity test, that's no small reveal. It's the kind of thing that immediately demands attention and, in many cases, sympathy. It's a deeply personal matter that pulls at people's emotions, whether they support you or not.
I seen the results are fake. Guys,
People are now saying that Gypsy Rose has faked her paternity test. Not only is she faking her pregnancy, but now she's faked the paternity results.
So was this test reveal an attempt to shift the narrative, to divert attention from her spiral on life, or maybe even to invoke sympathy from viewers who might otherwise be questioning her motives? Whatever her reason, the timing feels too calculated to be a coincidence. And the fact that she chose to aim this video at Ryan specifically suggests that there might be another layer here. It's almost as if she's crafting a story within a story, using the paternity test, the emotional breakdown, and the mysterious connection to Ryan to create a sort of narrative web. But if it's all based on fabricated tests, then what's really going on? At the end of the day, timing matters. When you release information, especially information as sensitive as a paternity test, and in this case, Gypsy's timing feels like it was chosen not because it was the right moment to share, but because it was the moment she needed to share something, anything, to regain control over the unfolding drama. This story doesn't end with just Gypsy and her personal decisions. There's a whole other layer here involving someone named Bree. Now, according to Nina, Bree is a friend, or at least an acquaintance of Gypsy's, and she supposedly has some digital skills. Nina jokingly refers to Bree's handy-dandy rent-to-center laptop skills, hinting at Bree's technical know-how and suggesting that Bree may have had the skills to help Gypsy alter or fabricate the paternity test results.
Now, you know Bree is good with the handy-dandy rent-to-center laptop that she has, right? So do we think that maybe they could have did something? Because why do those paternity tests not look the same at all? That's the sample.
Why bring Bree into this? Because if Nina's suspicions are correct, Bree may have played a part in making these test results look authentic, or at least convincing enough to pass at first glance. This isn't a small accusation. If Bree really helped Gypsy alter the test, it would mean that Gypsy didn't just stumble upon a convenient story to share, but actively planned and possibly coordinated with others to manipulate her followers' perceptions. Think about it this way. Fabricating a paternity test isn't something you would do on a whim. It takes thought, planning, and in some cases, outside help. The fact that Bree, who supposedly tech-savvy, had lunch with Gypsy right before these test results were posted is, to say the least, suspicious. It hints at possibility that Bree wasn't more than just a friend catching up over lunch. Maybe she was a co-conspirator, someone Gypsy could rely on to make this scheme look convincing. What makes it even more troubling is that if Gypsy did get help from Bree, it suggests that this wasn't just a one-off decision or a lapse in judgment. It points to a deliberate strategy, a calculated attempt to deceive her audience by enlisting someone with skills to make her story appear legitimate. If this is true, it goes beyond a simple desire for attention. It speaks to a pattern of manipulation that involves dragging other people into a web of deception. This involvement of others is crucial because it shows that Gypsy's potential deceit isn't happening in isolation. She's involving others, possibly even relying on their skills to maintain an image that might be far more from the truth. This isn't just her playing around with the social media. It's a coordinated effort to present a fictionalized version of her life to her followers. And in doing so, she's asking her audience to buy into a story that may have been fabricated from the start. What does this say about Gypsy's motive? If she's willing to involve Bree in such a scheme, then it suggests she may be willing to go to greater lengths to control the narrative around her. It implies that Gypsy understands the power of perception and is unafraid to bend the truth to serve her own interests. And if she's involving friends in this manipulation, then it shows a level of commitment to this deception that goes beyond what most people would be comfortable with. Now, let's consider Bree's role here. If she did help Gypsy alter the paternity test, she's not just an innocent bystander in this story. She becomes an accomplice, someone who's actively participating in the deception. This complicates the story even more because it means that Gypsy's manipulation may be more calculated than anyone realized. It's not just about her. It's about a network of people who might be complicit in creating a false narrative for the sake of attention, sympathy, or whatever else Gypsy stands to gain from this. Bree's involvement, whether confirmed or not, is significant because it adds a layer of accountability. If Gypsy has others helping her maintain her facade, then she's not just misleading her audience, she's involving people in a lie that has real consequences. It's a reminder that deception, especially when it's planned and orchestrated, rarely happens in isolation. At this point, it's hard to ignore the implications of Nina's investigation. If Gypsy is indeed lying about the paternity test, and if Brie is helping her, then this isn't just an isolated mistake. It's a pattern of manipulation that reflects poorly on everyone involved. It suggests that Gypsy's public image, the one she's carefully crafted over the years, may be built on a foundation of deception. And that's a troubling thought for her fans, who may be left wondering what's real and what's part of a carefully constructed illusion. In the end, Brie's role in this story, whether as an active participant or simply a friend who's chosen to look the other way, is significant. It speaks to the lengths Gypsy might be willing to go to keep her story alive and keep herself in the spotlight. It's a reminder that sometimes the truth isn't just a matter of what's said or shown. It's about who's willing to help create and sustain a story, even if that story is far from the truth. Alright, let's start by talking about something that's become a big part of this story. Gypsy's alleged connection to a company called fakerbaby.com. For those who aren't familiar, fakerbaby.com specializes in producing incredibly realistic fake pregnancy items. Yes, you heard that right. They sell items like fake pregnancy bellies, ultrasounds, and even other props that could make anyone look like they are expecting. And recently, rumors have spread that Gypsy might have used some of their products to create an illusion of pregnancy. Now, I know this sounds extreme, but let's remember who we are talking about here. Gypsy Rose Blanchard has been a figure of intrigue and controversy for years. Her past is, well, complicated to say the least. Public opinion has always been divided, with some people seeing her as a victim and others questioning her motives. But this story, it takes things in a whole new direction. The thing is, these rumors about fakerbaby.com aren't just random gossip. People who follow Gypsy have noticed some very strange inconsistencies in her appearance, specifically in her belly size. In certain videos, her belly looks noticeably large, almost like she's well into her pregnancy. And then in others, it's barely there, if at all.
People are asking why Gypsy Rose's baby bump looks like it disappears in some photos.
Now, some people have tried to explain it away with camera angles and natural body changes, but let's be honest, it's hard to ignore how strange this looks, especially with all the attention this story has been getting. And that's where fakerbaby.com comes in. If these rumors are true and Gypsy is really using products from a company that specializes in fake pregnancies, then this isn't just a misunderstanding or a harmless exaggeration. This would be a deliberate attempt to create a false narrative, to make people believe something that isn't true. And for what? Sympathy? Attention? To keep people interested in her story? To say the least, whatever the reason, the very idea that Gypsy might be faking something as personal as a pregnancy is unsettling. It's a betrayal of trust, especially for her fans, who have followed her story and supported her through so much. They believe in her journey, and now, with these rumors, it's like they are being forced to question everything.
So a lot of people believe that she's faking her pregnancy in the entirety. Now, for one, if you're not expecting to exploit your child, you wouldn't exploit your pregnancy, just saying. But she talks about going on Google a lot, and I know from being a hypochondriac when I was younger and from being just a worrywart with anxiety when I was pregnant, I would not look at Google. My doctors would even recommend me not look at Google. But here she is, looking at Google, diagnosing her neuropathy in her legs. As I stated with the whole leg issue, this is an issue with their chromosomal disorder. When you have rare disorders like this, things will come back up when you're pregnant or when you're getting older or when other health concerns come up. So FYI. And you know what's even weirder to me is that she's like, I Googled it and it said X, Y, and Z. Why aren't you asking your stepmommy, Christy? Is she not talking to you? She's scared of you? Or is she just tired of your shit?
And at the end of the day, this connection to fakerbaby.com casts a shadow that's hard to shake. This isn't just a strange coincidence. If she's using their product, it implies a level of deception that goes far beyond what most people would expect. And if she's doing it knowingly, it speaks a deeper issue. a willingness to manipulate her public image, even if it means creating an elaborate lie. And that's the troubling thought. So where does this leave us? With more questions than answers, certainly. But one thing is clear. If Nina's findings are accurate, then Gypsy's story isn't just her own. It's a narrative shaped by those around her, possibly for reasons that go far beyond what any of us imagined. For better or worse, changes everything.